Welcome to another episode of Snug Wrestling. Hi, everybody. It is me, Mr. Blood, once again heading up the Monday Night RAW reviews for our WWE shows. I'm here on the podcast, the Snug Wrestling Podcast, joined by the Snug Wrestling crew, myself, Mr. Blood, Toxic Tommy, and of course, the founder and head of Snug Wrestling himself, Edgar. We are here tonight to review the June 29th edition, the post Night of Champions edition of Monday Night Raw. But before we get into that, let's check in with the crew. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Raw was iffy for me. I thought it was more on the good side than the bad side. I thought there was things that I didn't really enjoy but not dislike, but most of the things on the show I did have some good things to say about, but I'm excited to get into it.
I am doing just fine. In fact, for those of you who are seeing us visually, you will see what is in my hand. But for those of you who are only listening, what I am holding in my hand is a Shih Tzu Poodle Mix puppy that we just got today. His name is Chip because he was the smallest out of the entire litter. So that was his name before. But overall, I'm doing good. The show was decent in my opinion. So let's get into it.
Yeah, man, also doing good, chilling. A lot of surprises I thought from this episode of Monday Night Raw that I was not expecting, but we got a better idea of what we're going to get at SummerSlam. The card for SummerSlam is shaping up. And I thought it's a good start for this road to SummerSlam. I'm pretty pumped for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, my overall thoughts on the show. I thought it was a decent show. Nothing spectacular. Definitely some stories moving ahead towards SummerSlam. I feel like we got one or two retcons here story-wise. A retcon meaning that essentially that they've decided to overlap and make some changes to some stories that were already ongoing and perhaps go a different direction with them. We'll get into that, however, when those moments arise. But the show started off pretty hot. It started off with the King of the Ring winner, the ruler, Oba Femi. Now, Oba gets a great reception, as always. Tonight, they're in Atlantic City in New Jersey, I believe. And they were kind of middle to hot for most of the show. Sometimes they were quiet, sometimes louder. I feel like the crowd couldn't decide, honestly, what energy level they wanted to be at tonight. And some of the matches felt it. But for Oba, great reception. Now, Oba comes out. He thanks the fans. He tells them, hey, look, that was a great ovation for a ruler, but how about an ovation for your king? And when it came down to it, he starts talking about looking towards the future of SummerSlam, saying there's a choice to be made. But before he can make that choice or even tell the audience, all of a sudden we hear Brock Lesnar's music hit. Now, Brock comes out before Oba can even mention who he's chasing for SummerSlam, the World Championships, that being now Sami Zayn, and of course still Roman Reigns. And he's accompanied, Lesnar that is, by Paul Heyman. Now Heyman comes out, and you think that Heyman is going to cut a promo. Heyman's the hype guy. He's the talker for Brock. Brock's a little limited on the mic, which reared its head tonight because Brock decided he was going to cut the promo, and it was an all right promo, of course. I feel like him and Heyman both knew that it was not the best and not going well, so they poked fun at themselves while the promo was happening. So it was all in good fun. But Brock said something over. He said, you know what? Congratulations. But I hear when I'm not here, you're talking about me. You're calling me a coward. You're calling me a bitch. But you know what they say? You talk shit, you get hit. And he low blows Oba in the balls and F5s him and then leaves the ring. But before he can get all the way up the ramp, Oba gets back on the mic and tells him, you know what? I want you at SummerSlam. I can hold off on the title chase. I want you for SummerSlam. And Brock says, okay, but there's a stipulation. I'll get you one-on-one at SummerSlam, but only if it's Hell in a Cell. Now, I thought this was okay. I was a little annoyed by it, to be honest. It was made very clear in this segment and the after segment that followed that Oba, in fact, is deciding that he is going to put the world championship on hold instead of going for it at SummerSlam on night 2 and facing Brock at night 1, like a lot of people thought. The aggravating thing about this, before we pass it on to you guys, is that I honestly thought that it was going to be, well, you want it for Hell in a Cell, fine. But I thought Oba would say, sure, I accept. But with my own stipulation, your career is on the line. But we didn't get that. So what were your thoughts on this opening segment, gentlemen?
You know, I think this whole thing solidifies to me that Oba is definitely going after Roman because, I mean, why would Brock come out if he was just going to go for Sammy? That might just be me. But if he doesn't put his spot on the line for the Hell in a Cell, we have like, what, 3-4 weeks until SummerSlam? So we could find that stuff out later. I popped big whenever Lesnar said Hell in a Cell. I was completely baffled. I was like, what the fuck? We're getting Hell in a Cell? We haven't had that since 2024. But speaking of 2024, I have the question, can this Hell in a Cell top Punk and Drew's Hell in a Cell? Because that was a 5-star classic, but can these absolute units who have basically squashed each other in their past matches, yes, they made each other look good, and they did, their opponents got a little bit of offense, but can they put a better match on in Hell in a Cell than Punk and Drew can? But I completely enjoyed the opener for Raw, and I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of the story, or the show, my bad.
This, to me, was not surprising at all. We had a feeling like he didn't show up at King and Queen of the Ring, which means he was going to come eventually. He was. And what a better spot than Night of Champions than to show up right here at the Raw directly after. Because that is going to be absolutely massive. This is the irresistible force against the irresistible object. That's just how this is going to be. And personally, I cannot wait for this match.
Yeah, man, I was pumped when I heard Lesnar's music hit. I mean, I wasn't really expecting him to show up because we get Oba Femi's big King of the Ring celebration moment, right? And I think we all expected him to call out Roman Reigns because he's the number one contender. And they've been saying this whole time, the winner of the King of the Ring gets a title shot at SummerSlam. So that's what we were expecting, right? I mean, we were hoping it was Roman, but it could still be the champion on SmackDown, who now it's Sami Zayn. But it's none of those things. It's Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar is like, you've been talking shit about me while I'm not here. And I don't watch the show, but Paul Heyman, he's been telling me all the shit you've been saying about me. I don't know if that's really the best thing for one of your top guys in the company, like Brock Lesnar, to say, hey, I don't watch this show. It's like, okay, well, why should we watch it then? If you don't watch it, but yeah, he's like, Paul Heyman's been telling me you've been calling me a bitch and I'm a coward and this and that. Well, talk shit, get hit. Lesnar low blows Oba, and then Oba makes the challenge for SummerSlam, and it's like, wait a minute. I thought we were going to get a championship match from you, Oba. But no, we're getting Lesnar versus Oba, and it's going to be a Hell in a Cell, another rubber match, another tiebreaker. And I'm excited for the match, but it was kind of like, oh, well, fuck. Like, the title's always going to be there, according to Oba. I'm going to put that on hold, and I want to finish this thing with Lesnar. Okay, cool. But again, man, I felt like we were promised a title match. I was kind of hoping for Oba versus Roman. That's not going to happen. This is going to be Lesnar's third Hell in a Cell match. I believe his last one, according to Google, it was in 2015 versus The Undertaker. So Lesnar has had 2 Hell in a Cell matches, both with Taker. I believe Lesnar won both of them. Even though it's not for a career like we expected, I think if Oba gets the win over Lesnar in a Hell in a Cell match, I think it's still a pretty big deal. But I was kind of left like, fuck, man, I kind of wanted to see Oba versus Roman.
Yeah, for me, my final thoughts on this really come down to I feel like we got lied to. And I know that it's like, oh, cards subject to change, right? And that's fine and dandy. Cards subject to change. The old adage WWE loves to throw out there to avoid things like false advertising, even when the entire point of a tournament, a half of a tournament, that is that the winner gets a specific title shot at a specific show. And that specific title shot and that specific show sell tickets to that specific show. So I feel like a lot of people got lied to. I don't know if the SummerSlam tickets are already on pre-sale. I would imagine they are. But there are people who bought tickets to SummerSlam on Saturday and yesterday on Sunday because they saw Oba win and said, oh, hell yeah, I love to watch Oba versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And they bought tickets for that explicit purpose. So I feel like that's a little false advertising. I also feel like it makes Oba look a little dumb because you go, hey, instead of going for the world championship, this sometimes for many talent, once in a lifetime opportunity and a first time ever match, a marquee match that people would really pay to see, first time ever for a world championship against the biggest superstar of this generation across all of professional wrestling on the second biggest stage of them all for pro wrestling, that being SummerSlam, and you choose, nah, I'm going to go ahead and fight this other guy I've already fought twice. And it's like, what? I don't give a fuck how much Lesnar pisses me off. I'm going for the world title, man. Like, this is a life dream for everybody here. And I'm choosing to scrap with you in a set of chain link fence versus getting the opportunity to be the champion of the world in the largest wrestling company on this planet. Come on. So it's hard for me to look past the aspect of that and not feel like my intelligence has been insulted. Any further thoughts on this, gentlemen, before we move on? All righty. Now, what followed this was Austin Theory backstage, trying to talk to Adam Pearce, trying to figure out like what's going on. Hey, yada, yada, this, yada, yada, that. Now, actually, I reiterate, I actually messed that up. I apologize. What happens backstage is Adam Pearce confronting Paul Heyman specifically. Him trying to figure out what's going on with this Oba Femi challenge. Like, why is this happening out of the blue? Paul Heyman's trying to convince Adam Pearce this is the right move. This is going to be a big sell. Imagine the name and the lights. Oba versus Brock. Hell in a Cell. He's trying to sell Adam Pearce on it. And then he gets interrupted by Austin Theory. Now, normally I would skip around backstage segments when I'm hosting. The reason I'm not is because this is important to the Vision story. Austin Theory comes up and is surprised to see Paul Heyman here. And in fact, he goes, I didn't even know you were in the building. No one told me. What was interesting was Paul Heyman's reaction to that, where he looked at Austin Theory and said, no one told you. You were looking for me. You were wondering where I was. Well, I'm here. And then he just says it to him so rudely, so sarcastically, and leaves him there and walks off. Now, I found that interesting because Heyman is supposed to be a part of the exact same group as him. Austin Theory was just excited he was here to have Heyman accompany to him to the ring for his match later in the evening. Heyman blew him off. And on top of that, I'm wondering where this goes because we know that they have a rematch now. We've been told that apparently there's a rematch next week for the tag titles for the Vision, that being Braun Breaker and Austin Theory versus the Street Profits. So it makes me wonder if the Vision is breaking up because this felt like the beginnings of a breakup. But gentlemen, what are your quick thoughts on this?
I didn't really have any thoughts. I was kind of in the same boat. Is this the start of the end of the Vision? Because, because of injuries, this group can't stay interesting. So is this the start to the end of the Vision? That was my thoughts.
The only thing that really popped into my head while I was watching this is Of course, Austin Theory is going to be wondering where the hell he is, because we haven't seen Paul Heyman until now, ever since Braun Breaker accidentally speared him through the damn barricade. So, of course, Austin Theory would be wondering why no one told him that he was there and that he would be looking for Paul Heyman, because we haven't seen him in the last few weeks.
So I actually don't think this is like the start of a breakup. I think it's the complete opposite. But I want to save my thoughts for this later on when we go over the match between Joe Hendry and Austin Theory, because this ties into that later on. But I do have more thoughts on what I think is happening with the Vision now.
All right, moving on to the first match of the night, Rey Mysterio versus Ethan Page. Now, this was an interesting match for me, mainly because Rusev was nowhere to be found. I feel like we haven't seen Rusev and Ethan Page together in 2 or 3 weeks, and they were a team. At least they were in the remnants of being a team, but it seems like Ethan's kind of been solo dolo, as the kids say, for a little while now. Now, first thing I wanted to mention was Rey, after years and years, has finally brought back the pants on his gear. I thought that was cool. When I saw that, brought me back a little nostalgia. Yeah, seeing Rey in his prime when I was a kid. Now, Rey stayed in control of this match for the majority of this match. Ethan, however, did find different ways to keep cutting off Rey's offense into very interesting reversals, counters, and maneuvers. But then Rey would immediately counter back. I want to say that he got Ethan set up for the 619 maybe 3 times in this match before officially hitting it and winning and beating Ethan Page with the 619 and Frog Splash clean. No interference, no run out. I was then waiting for Rey to get jumped after the match, but he didn't. It just ended, and I thought it was a pretty solid opener, but I was surprised that this went off without a hitch. No Dragon Lee after last week. There's no Dragon Lee after last week. No Rusev coming out. No Penta needed. No Chad Gable. Like, it was very by the numbers, straight up exhibition, one and done. What'd you guys think of this?
I thought it was an okay match. No complaints or nothing like great to point out about it, other than the spot that I didn't like. But before I get to that, it looked like a very well put together match. But the spot that I didn't like is where Ethan dropped Rey on his back on the turnbuckle. I mean, I just don't know how I feel about Rey taking spots like that, because I mean, Rey's like 50 something years old. I mean, no offense, but how much do you think he can take? But yeah, I thought it was also surprising that we didn't see anything like after the match, like no Rusev, no Dragon Lee, nothing like that. I thought that was interesting. So it was an okay match. I didn't have any complaints or, like I said, anything great to say about it.
I honestly wish that Rusev was there and attacked after the match, because of the fact that, wasn't it last week when Rusev, I believe it was, had a match and they jumped his opponent? Or was that?
I want to say that was 2 weeks ago, the last time we saw him, when him and Ethan were trying to rip off Rey's mask, and Dragon Lee and Penta and Chad were trying to save him because he had a match against Chad Gable. That was the last time I can think of seeing Rusev. That was 2 weeks ago.
Right. So with that, I totally thought, oh, it's Rey Mysterio. He was the one who tried to take the mask off of him. Why isn't Rusev out here? Because I totally thought Rusev would come out and try to finish the job and fully take off Rey Mysterio's mask, but he just didn't show up.
Yeah, I don't really remember exactly how it went down. I want to say this was a rematch. I want to say, was it Ethan Page and Rey Mysterio last week? And then after the match,
it was Ethan and Dragon Lee, and Ethan headbutted him in the balls while the ref was staring right at him.
Okay, but what was the moment where Rey Mysterio got unmasked at one point by Ethan Page and Rusev?
2 weeks ago in a match with Chad Gable with his new entrance theme in a one-on-one match with Rusev. And then it ended with Chad finally getting Rusev to tap, Ethan then jumping Chad after, Rey trying to help, Rey getting beat down as well. And then Penta and then Dragon Lee make the save. And then that's when Chad hands Rey his mask back.
Okay. Well, regardless, yeah, this was like a little payback that Rey Mysterio got. He got the opportunity to get his comeuppance after Ethan Page disrespected the mask and the culture, and it's the worst thing you can do to a luchador, right? And I love Ethan Page, man, and the fact that he's in the ring with a Hall of Famer like Rey fucking Mysterio, I think it's great, man. I think it's awesome. The match was good. Ethan Page looked great. Rey Mysterio sold a lot for Ethan Page, so I thought that was great. And Rey Mysterio hit a 619 and beat Ethan Page, so I thought this was great. This was also it for the Intercontinental title scene because they both want to get a shot at Penta, you know. So Rey Mysterio won. Maybe that sets up a potential rematch between Rey Mysterio and Penta, which I would not be mad if we saw that again. So yeah, I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah, all case scenario, solid opener. But then we move on to a segment that leads into the second match of the show. This was the Street Profits and Joe Hendry out for Joe Hendry to do a concert and sing about the fact that Austin Theory sucks, and basically John Cena bitched him out on the mic, and the Street Profits are out there thanking the fans and thanking Seth Rollins for the reason that they won these tag titles off the Vision last Monday night in the main event, and even get "You Deserve It" chants from the audience, which was nice. The sing-song stuff I thought was fine. Never, ever really been my cup of tea with wrestling, even when The Rock's done it, even when Elias did it. But it's entertaining. The fans feel interactive with it. It's great. Austin Theory comes out alone, interrupts them, threatens them, says, "I'm going to beat your ass," Joe Hendry specifically. This leads to a match, the second match of the night. Austin Theory versus Joe Hendry. Match was fine. Nothing to write home about. It was solid. Wasn't like the craziest thing ever. It was a match. It was fine. Nothing of note happened in this match. And Joe Hendry got the win clean. And so other than that, it basically just ended with him celebrating with the fans. Austin Theory feeling like he's alone in the world. There's no, there's no Braun Breaker. There's no Bronson Reed. There's no Logan Paul. And he even got shirked off by Paul Heyman, of all people. So I thought, if anything, this can definitely set up a rift with Austin Theory and the Vision later as well, feeling like the odd man out, like the short stick of the group. What did you guys think of the match and the segment that led into the match?
The segment that led into the match, it was fine. It's a normal Joe Hendry concert. Like his last song that he did, it was good. The "Can We Fire Logan Paul" song, I thought that was fire. But the match itself, it was a match. Not saying it's bad, but it was boring and easy to lose focus, which I did. So it wasn't as entertaining as their previous times in the ring. I think they've only had like one or two in the ring, but it's good to see Joe Hendry back in the ring. He's been out for a while, but it was a boring match and I lost focus.
I myself was in and out of this match, so I can't even remember everything that happened in it because of the fact that I was off and on overall. But Austin Theory and him feeling alone at this point, I feel like that will drive a massive rift in the Vision. And I think this is exactly what Seth Rollins wanted to happen with it overall. Like, is he the one causing it? Not exactly. But I feel like this is exactly what Seth Rollins wanted. Because what did he say his first mission was? To destroy the Vision once and for all. So I feel like with him screwing over the Vision and with the tag titles and that involving Austin Theory, that is going to drive in this massive rift, which will end up breaking up the Vision and destroying them from the inside out.
Damn, talk about doing some fucking quick work out of my boy Austin Theory. I mean, former world tag team champion gets beat in like less than 5 minutes by Joe Hendry. That was a little crazy to me, especially if Austin Theory is, getting ready for a rematch next week for the world tag team titles. It's like, you're going to beat him the week before again? All right. But that happened. And yeah, Austin Theory I just felt so bad for him, man, because he got dissed by Paul Heyman earlier on the show. His tag team partner, Logan Paul, is injured. Braun Breaker is not there. I'm pretty sure he's still going to be out next week, especially after that big cage match that he.
Braun Breaker's not out. There's a rematch next week for the tag
They've
title.
announced the tag rematch next week, the Vision versus the Street Profits.
But did they say Braun Breaker is going to be his tag team partner?
He's the only tag team partner that can be his tag team partner because he's the only one not injured other than Theory.
Okay. Well, except there isn't. Except I think maybe this is when Bronson Reed comes back.
It's possible.
They did not say Braun Breaker. All he said, the dogs are coming out. That's all Austin Theory said when the Street Profits pointed out the fact, like, hey, you're looking pretty lonely right now. And Austin Theory just said, hey, well, the dogs are coming out or something. But he didn't say specifically me and Braun Breaker at all. So I think maybe that's when we get Bronson Reed. But then again, if that's the case, then what? They're just going to, the Street Profits are going to beat a returning monstrous Bronson Reed and Austin Theory. I don't know, right? But I'm hoping that's what happens. That's the feeling that I got after seeing everything that happened with Austin Theory. So if that happens, Bronson Reed comes back, I think it brings Division even closer. It makes them stronger, and maybe Paul Heyman comes around a bit more. So I think they're just trying to throw us off here and make us think like, oh, Division are having issues, but we'll see. I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see the purpose in having Bronson Reed return to lose either. I also don't think it does the Street Profits any favors to have them drop the titles after 2 weeks if they lose next week. I could see Braun being in this match next week, and then they lose, but then Bronson returns after the match and lays waste to the Street Profits. I could see that being a viable option. But yeah, it remains to be seen. I can also see that loss to Seth potentially turning Braun Breaker babyface, and maybe in the match next week, the other option I could see is when it looks like Braun is and Austin are going to win, Bronson returns, but he attacks Braun Breaker because Braun went on without him even though he was injured. Braun made it all about him. The Vision fell apart while Bronson was gone. And now Braun is over here winning gold without Bronson Reed. And maybe that, Instagram post that Bronson Reed posted with him face to face with Braun Breaker was actually him saying, I'm coming after you. I'm not coming back to help you. I'm coming after you. And maybe Bronson Reed returns to destroy Braun Breaker, and that's Braun's next feud. But moving on, we had the IYO SKY segment. She is your new Queen of the Ring. Basically, IYO says she's going to beat Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. She beat her at Night of Champions. She's going to beat her again. This, of course, brings out Liv to be annoying for the next 45 seconds. She says she only lost due to Danhausen's stupid curse, which is funny because after her match on Saturday, she was literally asked how she felt about the curse, and she said the curse isn't real. So I don't know, which is it, Liv? Do you either believe the curse, or are you willing to use the curse as an excuse to cover up why you lost? Either way, you can't have both. You can't say both on camera and both be true. Of course, this leads to IYO talking shit to Liv. Liv has Raquel and Roxanne come out, and they corner IYO in the ring. Now, here's where sometimes I think baby faces are stupid. I love IYO to death, but Liv is on the rope in front of her facing ramp side. Okay, you have Roxanne behind her, facing or sitting in front of announce table side, and Raquel is on ringside on the apron facing hard cam. And Io looks at them like she's trapped like a rat, like there isn't a whole ass free side to her left to just dump out and jump the barricade or run around Liv. She just stands there acting like a deer caught in the headlights. And I'm like, there's a whole side open. What? She's like, oh God, you're there. You're there. You're behind me. We don't pay attention to the gap over here because it's not on camera. And then she gets her ass jumped. They attack the knee, put her in the tree of woe, stomp on the knee. She gets freaking beat the shit out of, and they leave her laying in the ring. And then Liv does, I guess, what's going to be considered one of her new gimmicked finishes, the single leg Boston Crab, or as they keep saying on commentary, a half crab. But it's a single leg Boston Crab. Say it right. And then they just torture Io. So what were your thoughts on this? I personally found this extremely redundant because I think this whole thing is redundant. I don't think Liv should have ever been in this tournament. I think everybody has agreed on that. I don't think having Danhausen curse her beforehand did any favors because it basically told us all Io was winning, even though we felt she was winning. So it also makes Danhausen cursing her redundant. And it just feels like Io beating her just to go back to facing her again at SummerSlam feels redundant. But again, this is possibly because, as Tommy mentioned in our review of Night of Champions last night, available on Apple and Spotify, if you haven't seen it, is that looks like Rhea is potentially going to be injured past August 1st and 2nd for SummerSlam. So this was the backup. But again, it begs the question, even if she was injured, Liv never had to be in this tournament. Io could have chosen her regardless of Liv being in it or not. But what were your thoughts of this?
I liked how when we saw the SummerSlam graphics the first time, instead of Minnesota, it said Minnesota. So clearly they realized that and fixed it because it says Minnesota the second time we saw it. But I don't get why Liv is complaining because other than the Danhausen curse, Io won clean. No outside interference other than Danhausen. And I mean, I don't know why she's complaining, but Io and me are the same person whenever we hear Liv talk. We just cover our ears. But I don't know how Io is going to even make it to SummerSlam if this is going to be every week, the three of them being Liv, Raquel, and Roxanne, jumping her every week. So, and she has no help whatsoever. So I don't even know how she's going to make it to SummerSlam. But I thought this was annoying. And yeah.
The biggest thing that I noticed, Liv, why the hell are you over here naming amounts of money like Danhausen actually needs to pay you back? Liv is over here just like, he owes Dom like $10,000 because he didn't curse Oba Femi in the tournament. So Danhausen, you are the cause of Dominic Mysterio losing in the tournament. When the hell did you show us y'all giving him anything? The only thing we saw was Liv, you trying to seduce Danhausen into not cursing Dom, but instead cursing Oba Femi. That's what we saw. We didn't see him get any money out of this. But overall, I think it's very clear that Io will 100% give Liv a run for her money, even if she doesn't fully win.
I actually thought this was pretty interesting because of the fact that Liv Morgan was put in the King of the Ring tournament. She went to the finals and lost to IYO SKY. They're going to run it back at SummerSlam now. So it's like, well, IYO SKY already beat Liv Morgan. She already beat the world champion. And that means, hypothetically, in theory, it means that she can do it again. And this time for the title at SummerSlam. But then Liv Morgan comes back and she's like, nah, homie, like the things are going to be different at SummerSlam. I'm pissed now. I'm going to be taking this more serious. I'm not fucking around anymore. And to prove that, we're going to jump you and we're going to give you Trouble Trouble, get it because that's her song, from now on to SummerSlam. And in that sense, I am kind of interested to see how far Liv Morgan and the Judgment Day are willing to go for this build up to SummerSlam, and you know how much heat they can get on IYO, and if they can make this thing interesting and more intense, so it doesn't feel like the same thing that we saw of Night of Champions. And yeah, maybe, I mean, they could make this a little bit more interesting, I'm hoping.
Well, that remains to be seen. You know what else remains to be seen? How come our women's tag champions are only on Raw every other week to every 2 weeks? Because where was Paige and Brie tonight, by the way? And aside from seeing the Lyra Valkyria video package, we didn't see hide nor hair of Bayley. But I'm skipping over the Lyra stuff. I found it mildly interesting, but mostly annoying. LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso is our, I believe, third match of the evening. And this was essentially set up because last week when we had LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso, Solo Sikoa interfered and spiked Jimmy on the top rope, and then LA Knight picked up the victory. But LA didn't like the way that he won, so being at that point an honorable babyface who's all about his pride, asked for a rematch so he could beat Jimmy Uso again. There was a hiccup, however, because Jay decided tonight he was going to be out at ringside just to make sure nothing happened to Jimmy again. Now, they had a really good match, really good back and forth here, until LA, for some reason, made a really stupid decision. You see, Jay was kind of mouthing off at ringside, never put his hands on LA. And what happens is LA kind of teases that he's going to Irish whip and chuck Jimmy into Jay, which makes Jay jump. Now, Jay don't like that, but LA laughs it off and throws Jimmy back in the ring. Jay starts mouthing off, but for some reason, he never touched LA. So unprovoked, LA just big boots Jay in the fucking face. I mean, sends him back over the chair he was in and everything. This, of course, leads to Jimmy winning by a roll-up when LA gets back in the ring after he basically hits the megastar elbow, and Jay distracts him on the ropes, and Jimmy essentially basically rolls him up for the 1, 2, 3. Now, obviously, Jimmy is not happy about, LA's not happy about this, gets upset, jumps Jimmy after the match. Again, showing the shades of that heel turn that might be coming around the corner. And then starts getting his ass jumped by Jay and Jimmy. But before Jimmy can really do anything, Solo Sikoa pops up again out from under the ring and spikes Jimmy in the throat while Jay is distracted, thus leaving Jay to turn his attention from LA and then get turned around and hit with a BFT. This leads to LA looking out to Solo in the crowd as Solo runs away. But what I thought was interesting was LA kind of smiled at Solo when Solo was running away. And then he held up the fingers like this, holding up 2 fingers, signaling that's the second time Solo has helped and or kind of saved LA Knight. Yeah. What'd you guys think of this?
Like I said last week when they had their match, it's usually a good match between these two. And I was surprised Jay was on commentary or even out there with Jimmy. But I think Corey Graves said this. Like, what does Roman think about you losing King of the Ring? He said, I don't know. I've been avoiding Tribal Chief all day. But I have to wonder what Roman has to say about Jay losing King of the Ring. It's not like the old bloodline, so I don't think he would be that mad, but I think he would just be a little bit upset. But it was a good match, like I said. Better than their match last week, I think. But there's been so much wrestling that I can't even remember their last one. But yeah, that was the only thing that annoyed me, is that unprovoked LA Knight just big boots Jay. I mean, wasn't even gonna put his hands on him until LA Knight touched him. So that was annoying.
Well, that was the thing, though, with that. Like, yes, there was that big boot, but at the same time, his reasoning is Jay was talking shit. And in LA Knight's mind, it was, you talk shit, I will kick your ass, which is exactly what LA Knight did. In fact, Jay did end up going after and attacking LA Knight, which caused that with Solo. So I do find it very interesting that that happened. And last Friday, when LA Knight and Solo were talking to each other and all of that, Solo's response to Knight was, hey, I've got no family left. I don't have anyone on my side. I hate the bloodline as much as you do. And with the fact that he just spiked Jimmy Uso 2 weeks in a row, that sure as hell is showing that Solo is in fact telling the truth on that, and that he does not plan on rejoining the bloodline anytime soon.
Yeah, they also replayed a pretty good video package from last week's Friday Night SmackDown, which I did not watch. That pretty much LA Knight and Solo Sikoa had a promo segment where basically Solo's like, hey, let me help you out. I hate the bloodline. Enemy of my enemy can be a friend. And LA Knight was like, no thanks. But Solo Sikoa still showed up on this Monday Night Raw to help out LA Knight again. And LA Knight was kind of standing there wondering. So could we see LA Knight and Solo team up at one point? That'd be interesting, or maybe not. Maybe it might be a little awkward. I don't know how that dynamic would look, or how the audience would react to Solo Sikoa, because they love LA Knight, but I don't think they like Solo Sikoa regardless of who you put them with. So that's going to be interesting to see if that happens, But yeah, at first going into this match, I was like, man, we saw this last week already. This is a rematch. I believe LA Knight won last week. This time Jimmy won, so now they're tied, which means we're probably going to see a third match from these two. Maybe another steel cage match. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Jey Uso was out there, which was different compared to last week. And then you get the interference from Solo. So it didn't feel like the same shit that we got last week, because Jey Uso on commentary is fucking gold, man. I can listen to Jey Uso on commentary all fucking day. Because Michael Cole and Corey Graves took full advantage of the fact that Jey Uso was there to ask him some questions, some good questions, like, hey, what has the OTC been, what did he say to you after losing to Oba? And he was like, oh man, he's like, I just been in catering, bro. I've been ducking the OTC, bro, if I'm being honest. And that shit was hella funny. The moment where LA Knight gets, he attacks Jey Uso. He's just, Jey Uso, he's just out there just being him and just having fun. And it's great, man. It's really entertaining. You get the shenanigans. Jey Uso helps Jimmy get the win on LA Knight. Again, another, I thought, entertaining, great match between two veterans like LA Knight and Jimmy Uso. I thought this was great.
Yeah, again, like I said, I thought it was a really, really good match. My only thing is, I just don't like booking that makes a babyface look stupid. This is Wrestling 101. LA Knight's been a wrestler for 15, near 20 years at this point. He knows if you're going to attack someone not involved in the match, you better go in that ring and beat someone in the next 10 seconds, because your ass is going to get hit. They're going to try to run in on you. So I don't know what in his mind possessed him to just offhanded attack Jay unprovoked, talking shit or not, while you're in the middle of a match trying to prove a point. And then you risk, which did happen, someone trying to interfere on you for payback. You did it to yourself. So it only makes LA look stupid. So I just disagree with that bit of booking. Moving on to another bit of booking that I thought was stupid and pointless. Maxine Dupree versus Raquel Rodriguez. Now, this got set up because essentially speaking, Maxine Dupree wants a shot at the Intercontinental Champion, that in being Sol Ruca, whom was not on this show. Again, why are so many people off this show that are champions? The Bella and Paige, and Now we got Sol Ruca not here with her Intercontinental Championship. But then we have Raquel, who essentially tells Adam Pearce, why does she get a shot before I do? I should get a shot. And to be fair, it's not like Raquel's done a whole hell of a lot recently. It's not like she's been winning her matches like fucking gangbusters. But also, it's not like Maxine Dupree has either. Maxine, this is her first fucking match in what? How long? Like 2 months? 3 months? Now, though, she is a former Intercontinental Champion, and hilariously enough, it is crazy to say Maxine was a mid-card title winner and holder before Raquel and before freaking Chad Gable. That's nuts. But we did get basically a match set up where Adam Pearce said, okay, well, before I figure out who's going to go on and face Sol, you guys can have a match tonight. Now, here's the thing that's weird. I don't know if this was the #1 contendership match or not. It wasn't sold as one. It was just that mentioned backstage. It didn't say it on the title card going into the match. So I don't know if this is just a one-on-one, and it's like, well, we'll see what happens. Let's see how you guys pair off together. Now, of course, Maxine runs into Chad Gable before this match and basically apologizes to him. She says, I don't take back anything I said to you last week, but I am sorry for the way that I said it. Now, the match happens. It's going pretty smooth for about 4 minutes, and then it just kind of ends. One Tahana Bomb counter off of a swinging sidekick, and Maxine's packed up. I thought this was kind of just out of nowhere, first off, and then second off, it ended without a whimper. You want me to believe that Maxine has gotten better as they try to put her over on commentary. You want me to believe that she has trained her ass off to hone her craft, and she is a former IC champion. Well, why is my former IC champion losing in like 4 minutes? Especially random ass last minute. She should be much fresher of an opponent than Raquel. Raquel's had matches over the last several months since Maxine's been in a ring last in an in-ring competition. But Raquel gets the win. That's fine. After the match, of course, we do have Austin Theory, who goes up to Maxine and basically says, what were you doing talking to Chad Gable? You got to decide. If you want to go that route, fine. But if so, then maybe this thing with me and you is a mistake. And I'm not sure if we're still pushing Maxine towards Vision or if this is one of those things they're retconning, like I mentioned at the start of the show, because she apologizes to Chad, stopping essentially a heel turn, and then basically looks like she got left high and dry by Austin, seemingly also stopping a heel turn. So what are your thoughts of this, guys?
I'm pretty sure Adam Pearce did say this was #1 contenders, but I don't know. I was paying attention, but kind of not listening. But I couldn't pick who I wanted to win this because Raquel is one of my favorites right now, one of them. But she also needs something. Like, she hasn't gotten much. But Maxine's title reign was unfortunately short, and also she needs something to do. But the match was short, which I thought it was fine short, even though it could have been longer, but I felt it was better short. And to me, Raquel and Sol sounds like a better match to me. No disrespect to Maxine. I just like the sound of Raquel versus Sol better.
What I find very interesting is the fact that there are only 2 members of the Judgment Day that have not been cursed by Danhausen, and that is Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Other than that, all 3 of them, that being Dom, Liv, and JD, have all been cursed. Dom was the first one cursed back when Danhausen was making his full rounds, being all over the place, back when he was holding the Intercontinental title before he lost it to Penta. JD was next a couple of weeks ago, then got himself electrocuted. And then you have Saturday night with Liv Morgan. So those 3 have all been cursed. Roxanne is one of the only ones left who's not. So her winning works for me. I do like the thought of Roxanne Perez or Raquel Rodriguez, for that matter, against Sol Ruca, especially Roxanne, if that ends up happening at some point, because that is another NXT run back that I would not mind seeing at all. But I would like to see Raquel hold singles gold at some point. And if that's the Intercontinental title, I would not mind.
Oh man, oh man. Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about this match at first. It was a quick match. It was a like 4 or 5 minute match, but even though it was really short, I want to say this has been the best match I've seen from Maxine Dupree in a long time. Um, because she was going up against someone much bigger like Raquel Rodriguez, and Maxine Dupree can kind of like let loose a little bit more and like show some more fire, because at one point during the match she was hitting Raquel with some pretty good looking shoulder tackles. Like Maxine was getting for a little bit really physical there, and I thought that looked good. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty.
Yeah, her clotheslines looked awesome.
There you go. Yeah, the clotheslines were looking good. I'm like, man, that's what I would like to see more of from Maxine, because she seems like very, like she holds back a lot because she doesn't want to fuck up too much and she wants to play it safe. And it's like, nah, girl, like I want to see her go crazy. And she kind of did that a little bit with Raquel. Because again, Raquel's a fucking monster. She's a powerhouse, so she can take the beatings, especially from someone like Maxine. But I thought Raquel winning made sense. They're also going to be telling the story with, what's happening with the Vision and Chad Gable with Maxine. So I don't really feel like Maxine is going to be left out of, she's not going to get any like, what is it called? What do the kids say? FOMO, fear of missing out of anything. It's just my only thing now is like, okay, I don't think this was the number one contenders match. This is kind of like what they did with Rey and Ethan Page. It's to get a step closer to a title match type thing, right? So Raquel Rodriguez is getting closer to Sol Ruca. And when that happens, if that happens, unfortunately, I don't see Raquel winning because it is Sol Ruca Hogan, the fresh new toy, the shiny toy that everyone loves right now. So I think they're just setting up Raquel just for Sol Ruca to beat her, which sucks because I love Raquel. But yeah, I thought this was okay.
All right, moving on to my match of the night. I don't think there's even a comparison or a close comparison to any match we saw tonight. Maybe LA Knight and Jimmy is right underneath this, but Chad Gable versus JD McDonagh. What a fucking match these two had. This was an insanely hard-hitting, technical, grappling, like this was a wrestling match. And these guys were beating the ever-loving piss out of each other, and I loved every second. From an overhead German suplex to land straight flat on the stomach, to not only a running reverse Spanish fly, but a top rope Spanish fly, to Chad Gable knocking the piss out of JD for JD on the way down to headbutt him. So they both collapse, and Chad collapses on him for a pinfall that does get kicked out of. To just, there was so much good here. Danhausen came out to cause a distraction, putting a briefcase with money in it that later, was rigged to explode with chalk or smoke or some shit after the match. But I don't think Danhausen was needed here. I personally think that even though it's the hijinks of the Judgment Day, this was a really good match without his inclusion. And Chad won by going back for the ankle lock about 2 or 3 times after the Chaos Theory German suplex was reversed. But when he hit that thing, he locked it in. JD tapped immediately after Chad Gable cinched it in. I thought this was insanely good. And I'm not lying when I say I would love to see these two go for it, like for an intercontinental title, like number one contendership match, maybe on a PLE, something like these guys. They might be wrestling soulmates because these two just had a fucking chemistry. But I loved everything about this match. How'd you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I thought it was good too. Everything from the Spanish Fly, from basically everything. A funny story: when this match was happening, I was watching it with my little cousin, and whenever Chad got dropped on his knee, was it Chad or was it? Yeah, Chad got dropped on his knee, and I looked at it like, oh, that looked like a nasty landing. She's like, why are you looking at it like that? And I was like, because he just got dropped on his knee. And he's like, and she's like, he got knee pads on. He's fine. So I thought that was funny, but I liked this match. This was definitely match of the night for me. But yeah.
Yeah, this was absolutely insane, especially with the fact that I have seen a clip going around. It's not for SmackDown, I do not believe, but there was a point where Chad Gable was in a match and man got dropped on his head. So with this match, I believe being after that, it's absolutely insane with the fact that he could still wrestle through that, because holy crap, this man looked like his neck got crunched for a little bit. But Chad Gable in himself is a phenomenal wrestler. I absolutely love everything that he does as of late. I was a little bit iffy on the El Grande Americano stuff, but as soon as he came back as Chad Gable with the new theme and everything else, I knew that they were going to give this man a push. I just hope that he can get away from the Danhausen and the Judgment Day stuff.
Yeah, from the beginning, from the lockup, you can tell that this was going to be a good match. You can tell, like, okay, these two are great athletes, great wrestlers. We're in for a treat. And it was physical, it was intense, it was high flying. They did a bunch of different styles here. I feel like it was a little bit of everything in this match, which was great. Chad Gable won. And then you have the shenanigans with Danhausen, the Judgment Day, the goofiness, after the match and all of that. Yeah, it's entertaining. It's funny. The people love Danhausen, but I kind of felt like that kind of took a lot of the spotlight from the match. I think most people were, I guess, more focused on the whole thing with Dom wearing Danhausen's jersey, and you have a good match and then you have the entertaining stuff as well. But I don't know. I think all that stuff that we saw kind of took a lot away from this match, which was really good.
But yeah, that's how I felt too. I felt like this match just didn't need it. It didn't need to be here. I thought that it didn't just take shine away from the guys in the ring. I felt like it distracted from the guys in the ring, especially for people in the audience who were trying to crane their necks to see Danhausen and where he's going. And I was like,
yeah, and for what?
Why is he here?
Why are we starting a feud with Danhausen and Judgment Day? Like, is Dom gonna wrestle Danhausen next? Is JD gonna wrestle Danhausen next? Like,
so yeah, before you start getting him in fucking feuds, can we have him wrestle more? But I digress. All right, folks, let's move on to the main event segment, the Roman Reigns segment. Now, this was probably the second best thing of the night, mainly for the history and the things that would unfold and be told in this segment. So Roman Reigns comes down to the ring with Jacob Fatu, and curiously enough, no Usos in sight, probably because Jay said he's trying to avoid the tribal chief. But Roman Reigns makes his way down to the ring in the year of 2029. He finally arrives. And when he gets in the ring, everybody in Atlantic City acknowledges him. And then as he begins to talk, all of a sudden, burn it down. Here comes Seth freaking Rollins. Now, it's starting to make sense as to why they had Oba forego his title opportunity at SummerSlam, in my opinion, stupidly, just to go after Brock Lesnar, so we can make way for the match that WWE has been wanting to put on since WrestleMania. It was originally supposed to happen at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, Seth was out too long. And then when they were like, well, fuck it, we'll pivot, we'll have him go against Braun Breaker. Then Braun Breaker goes out and he's out too long. So then they said, well, fuck it, we'll put Seth against Gunther. And then Braun Breaker's finally healed just in time to disqualify, or basically not disqualify, but interfere on Seth at Mania. Point is, this shit's been all over the place. But what we got here was 14 years in the making. The build to what is potentially going to be the last match ever between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Now, I talked about this last night on our review. of Night of Champions. And I said that, again, this was the match WWE has been trying to put on for about 6 months. Like, they've wanted this since Mania. And they tried to set it up before Mania as well. Hell, they laid the eggs and the foundation for this bitch last year at 41. When it comes down to it, they had a really good promo exchange. But Seth did most of the talking. He tells Roman that this could be the last time they ever have to close the loop on this feud. The fact that you've never beat me, that I respect you. You are a future Hall of Famer. You are all these things. You might be the greatest of all time. Genuinely giving Roman his flowers for the first time ever, while also stating, but I will forever be the ghost that haunts you. And you need to close the door on me. You need to prove that you can beat me. This is your last chance. Roman takes the time to respond and says, that's the most honest, most truthful thing that's ever come out of your mouth. You're right. I don't want to beat you. I need to. I need to beat you with my family watching, with the bloodline watching, to know that I could defeat you. And I thought that was really good. Roman then willingly accepts the challenge. And I like it because this was simple. There was no, attacking Seth. There was no jumping in with Jacob. There was no Jacob going off the rails and beating his ass or anything. In fact, the camera closes in on Seth and you see him exhale a sigh of relief, like, we're doing this. And Roman gets out and he's talking to Seth before the show goes off the air. And he says, you were my brother. He goes, but he literally tells Seth, I respect you, but I'm going to beat you. When it comes to SummerSlam, I will finally put you behind me. At SummerSlam, I closed the door on the Shield. And I thought that was really, really good. This is a great segment because it was held back while also giving us so much to look forward to. What did you guys think of this?
I enjoyed this segment because it felt like that, excuse me, that Seth's not here to say, oh, I'm going to be here to try and be a thorn in your side. No, I'm going to be here because you need to beat me. I'm not here to want you to beat me or hell, even beat you or anything. You need to beat me. And I just like the history that is going to set up for this match. I don't see it being like how Roman and Punk were, where it was them not physical at first and then they get physical. I don't think it's going to be like that, but it's possible. But I now know that they are holding off on Oba versus Roman. I can see them doing it after SummerSlam, the show after. But I like this match. I completely thought whenever Seth got like all, hey, I'm gonna be serious right here and stuff like that, I thought he was about to announce retirement after this, which I would have hated, and that will be a sad day in the wrestling community or world when Seth and Roman retire from wrestling. But I enjoyed this segment.
Yeah, when he said this may be the last time you have the chance to be up against me, it screamed to me that unfortunately Seth does not have much left in him. And that is going to kill us all when he's gone, especially with the fact that look at everything this man has done. Yes, the creation of the Vision was great, at least at the start of it. The entire thing with the Shield and that going on with Punk, that entire rivalry with CM Punk after Punk returned after 10 years. This man is going to hurt when he's gone. That's just how it's going to be. But the fact that we are finally getting the final chapter to Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, and the fact that Roman could never beat him, I feel like this is going to be a great match between these two because it always is. But the part that's going to hurt is the fact that this is the second final chapter match for Seth Rollins. The first one was on Saturday with Braun Breaker when they beat him in the cage. And now it's one last time with Roman Reigns, which makes me think he's probably only got a year or two left in him.
Well, all of a sudden, I'm not mad that we're not getting Oba Femi versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, because now we're getting Seth Rollins versus Roman. You know, a match in the fucking making for I don't know how long, since we've been waiting to see this match, right? Some of us been waiting for a long time. And right away, Seth Rollins' music hits, and I'm like, okay, it's all starting to make sense. Everything is shaping up now. The card for SummerSlam is looking pretty good. Oba versus Brock, Roman versus Seth. I'm down for that, right? And Seth Rollins pleads his case to Roman. But at first, Roman wasn't having it. At first, Roman was like, nah, Seth, you haven't done nothing to earn this title shot. You can't just walk up in here and act like I owe you something. And Seth was like, no. Let me get this straight, all right? I own you. You've never been able to beat me. I've had your number. I've done this. You know, I helped create you, and basically gave Roman Reigns no choice but to accept. You have never beaten me. And before you retire, before you leave, what is your career going to look like? You've beat everyone. You've held all the championships. You main evented everything, but you haven't accomplished beating me. And this is your last chance. So already we're off to a fucking great start because of all the history these two have. Man, I'm so pumped for this, dude. I thought this was a great moment. It was a holy shit moment seeing these two in the ring finally, because we've seen them cross paths backstage and, you know, mention each other. The thing that happened with Cody at WrestleMania a couple years ago. But finally, we saw them face to face tonight on Monday Night Raw. We're going to see them at SummerSlam, and also what's to come from now to SummerSlam, because we saw Jacob Fatu out there. We could even see Seth versus Jacob at some point to help build up this match at SummerSlam, which would also be amazing. So either way, however I try to look at this, it's going to be fucking great.
Yeah. What I really want to highlight here about this is what happens when you have long-term storytelling, that it doesn't have to be a continuous story. It can be characters that break apart, come back together, and it still somehow feels fresh. Because Seth is right. Everything that Roman was able to do is only because Seth was by his side. In the original Shield, it was Seth's job to protect Roman's weaknesses. We know that. When it came down to it, when Roman was on the rise as the big dog, the antithesis to him was Seth in the authority stable, where he needed to try and overcome him there. And Seth was at the top of the mountain. Roman had to get there by going through Seth. Then, when Roman still can't get over all of this trauma because he's betrayed by everybody, when the bloodline story happens, out comes Seth, reminding him of his failures, reminding him of his weakest moments, coming down through the crowd dressed in the Shield gear. And then what did Roman do? He threw the match out and beat him with a chair because he couldn't get the ghost of Seth out of his head, and he got himself disqualified. Then you come down to WrestleMania 40. Seth literally was the distraction, sacrifices his body to make sure Roman loses to his own hubris again. Then last year, Seth makes Paul Heyman betray freaking Roman, low blows both of them, pins Roman in the ring, beats him again. So, like, this is so good. I also like that Seth put over the next generation of talent. He said, look, you and I are responsible for the greatest generation in pro wrestling history, which you could argue is true. Maybe not for mega star power, but for in-ring, what they can do now, what the business has become, it's possibly true. And then I like that he says there's this new group of young and hungry talent that are going to be coming for us for the exact same thing that we came for the guys before us did. They're coming for us. You and I are long in the tooth. We are closer to the end than the beginning of this. So why not one last time go out there and see who the better man is? I thought this was perfect. I'd also like to note, I really hope over the next month they don't touch each other. I don't want them beating on each other because there was so much respect in this promo. I don't need them fighting. They can have another promo exchange if they want. Maybe Seth gets in promo exchange with the Usos, but I don't want Roman or Seth fighting physically at all. I want all the physicality saved until SummerSlam, which I imagine is night 2 on August 2nd. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Snug Wrestling. Thank you guys for tuning in with us. That was the June 29th edition of Monday Night Raw, reviewed and in the books. So catch us live every Monday night after Raw and every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific for our NXT post-show reviews. And every Thursday at the same time on TikTok Live, where we discuss random or relevant wrestling topics and answer your fan questions live. And every Sunday at all those same times previously mentioned for our SmackDown post-show review. But mark your calendars. Tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Central, we will have a special guest interview with independent professional wrestling star and reigning pro wrestling Mid-South Junior Heavyweight Champion Dwayne Cashman, going live at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Follow Snug Wrestling on all social media, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And you can support the podcast by picking up your merch at our teepublic.com/Snug Wrestling. That's TEE public.com/Snug Wrestling. So until next time, stay safe, stay savage, and stay snug. Boys, let's send them home. That was one time for the one time I said that was
4 letters.
4 letters.
One
One word.
word.
Ugh.
yeet.
Yeet.